My name is Kate Stonecipher, and I'm a member of the AmeriCorps Watershed Stewards Program, serving with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife in Fortuna, California. Today we're going to talk about pollinators.
So, what is a pollinator? A pollinator is any animal that carries pollen from the male part of a flower, or stamen, to the female part of a flower, also called stigma. This is called fertilization and must happen for many plants to produce fruits, seeds, and young plants. But wait, what is pollen? To answer that question, first we should talk about the parts of a flower. Pollen contains the genetic information of the flower. In other words, what it will look like and how it will grow. It is located on the anther, which is attached to the filament. The anther and filament together form the stamen. So the stamen equals the anther plus the filament. Look, here comes our bee friend again, and it looks like he's got some pollen on his face. Okay, awesome. So he drops the pollen on the stigma. It travels down through the style to the ovary. That's where the seeds are formed. So the stigma, the style, and the ovary together form the pistil. So the pistil equals the stigma plus the style plus the ovary. Let's see that again. Awesome! What do you think happens now? Wow, thanks, friend bee. Okay, let's review. Pollen contains the genetic information of the flower, what it will look like and how it will grow. It is located within the anther, which is part of the stamen. During pollination, pollen is transferred from the stamen to the stigma, through the style, and down into the ovary. This is where the seeds are formed. Why is this important? Because without pollinators, many of the plants we depend on for food would not be able to grow. There are many different types of pollinators. Bees, butterflies, ladybugs, hummingbirds, and bats are just a few of the examples that come to mind. Pollinators have a special relationship with the plants they pollinate, and our world just wouldn't be the same without them. Alright, let's talk about some plant-pollinator interactions. In relationships between plants and pollinators, both sides benefit. Pollinators receive food from the plants in the form of pollen or nectar. In return, the pollinator spreads the pollen or nectar from flower to flower. This helps the plant reproduce or grow new plants. In ecology, this type of relationship which benefits both sides is called a mutualism. Our world is full of pollinator-plant interactions. Here are just a few examples. Hummingbirds, like this ruby-throated hummingbird, pollinate lilies, like this leopard lily. Butterflies, like this monarch, pollinate milkweed. They also rely on it for shelter. And my favorite, bats, can pollinate cacti, like this saguaro. It's important to remember that these are not the only plants these pollinators can pollinate. In fact, most pollinators can pollinate a wide variety of plants. In ecology, this is called being a generalist. One of the wonderful things about pollinators is that they are an animal that you can view very frequently in your own backyard, like this ladybug. Ladybugs are an extremely beneficial insect to have in your garden, as they eat small insects that damage plants, like aphids. Unfortunately, some of our pollinator friends have begun to disappear and are considered to be threatened or endangered, which means that their populations have declined to the point where they could become extinct. Here are some examples of threatened or endangered pollinators. The Mariana fruit bat, the bridled white-eye, the rusty-patched bumblebee, and the valley longhorn elderberry beetle. These are just a few of the threatened and endangered pollinators. For a bigger list, see the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service website at fws.gov/pollinators. Pollinators need biodiversity to help them thrive. Biodiversity refers to the amount of organisms in a habitat. So a habitat that is very biodiverse is one that has lots of different flowers, trees, shrubs, birds, fungi, amphibians, and all kinds of other different organisms. This is a good example of a yard that has some biodiversity. There are lots of different trees, shrubs, and flowers that provide all kinds of habitats for pollinators. This lawn is a good example of what is called a monoculture. The only thing you see growing here is pretty much grass. Certain human activities reduce biodiversity in many habitats, but what can you do to help pollinators? First, avoid using harmful pesticides like spray-on chemical weed killers. Get to know the benefits and joys of organic gardening. Let the dandelions grow in your yard. There is some evidence that dandelions are an important early food for bumblebees. Try planting native plants in your yard. Native shrubs like these azaleas and rhododendrons are great for our North Coast climate. Hummingbird feeders like the one shown here are a great way to attract hummingbirds to your yard. Fill it with nectar that's made with 1 part sugar and 4 parts water. Insect houses like this mason bee house make a great home for many of our insect pollinators. Of course, it doesn't hurt to do additional research on pollinators in your area and tell your friends about the awesomeness of pollinators too. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video and maybe learned something about pollinators along the way.
Kate Stonecipher signing off, and I hope you have a beautiful day.